E.B. White once said, one nation's common sense is another nation's high blood pressure. Keep this in mind as we discuss the recent developments in Taiwan following the visit of the Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, and what does it mean for the future geopolitical landscape. My name is Dr. David Waralu.
And my name is Dr. Ross Stewart.
And you are watching Geopolitics in Conflict.
A potential visit to Taiwan by the US House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. Officials are concerned that the trip may cross red lines for China.
Warned of extremely serious consequences.
What would she want to accomplish specifically, and how does it look if she ignores exactly what the administration wants?
Becoming a problem for President Joe Biden's administration.
We believe in the rule of law, and that's what our country is about, and no person is above the law, not even the President of the United States.
But before we dive into this, Russ, we want to mention to our viewers about our new channel. It's called The Heart of the Warrior. The reason we have it, we know you are receiving a lot of information. We wanted to have another alternative source of information for you. So make sure to check out the link above for The Heart of the Warrior channel.
As almost every person on the planet knows, a senior U.S. government official has just recently visited Asia. And all the news media are abuzz with it. And what we don't see is the big picture, what this really means and where this is all headed.
Exactly. Just as a reminder before I jump into, we're going to provide our viewers with a brief analysis and so forth. Some have been asking about you. Where is Ross? Well, here is Ross, is here. So
you've heard us talk about we've been developing a course, and to have a real high quality course means a lot of research, a lot of development goes into that. And so I've been devoting myself to the content and the structure of that course.
Well, good to have you back, Ross. Anyway, back to our topic. Yes, indeed, Nancy Pelosi, Speaker of the House, recent trip to Asia that included Singapore, Malaysia, South Korea, Japan, and Taiwan. But of course, is the Taiwan trip that was the issue. We're not here to talk about Nancy Pelosi trip. That's done and all that. We are here to talk about the implication of what it means for the next 5, 10, 15 years, especially when it comes down to U.S.-China relations.
What we've clearly seen is that there's a shift of money and a shift of world power out of the West. I wonder where it's headed.
Yeah, indeed. And what you are referring to, Ross, is the idea of how the cycles emerge and evolve. And we are, believe it or not, we are in the process of that shift that's taking place.
When we look at this historically, the research could not be more clear about empires, how they grow, how they maintain, and then how they decline. And there seems to be a timetable for these things, and the American empire is right on track with the cycles of history.
Yeah, indeed. And this is where, in my opinion, and this is my personal opinion, what this trip of Nancy Pelosi trip to Taiwan is precipitating this kind of conversions. You know how cycles go up like anything in life. We are born, a kid, you grow up, you reach adolescence, you reach your peak, you get old and you start to decline and you check out from this earth.
That sucks, but you know, that's what it is.
It's reality. It's reality. So it's no different with empires and countries and all that. And we are witnessing that one right now, Ross.
And the pattern could not be more clear. And as I said just a few minutes ago, the United States was on track, but Nancy Pelosi has done something to speed it up.
Yeah, indeed, because it changes now the dynamics between U.S. and China relations. And I am sure they're going to change one way or another. So the idea that, you remember a couple months ago we did a video and I remember mentioned there are only 3 countries that matter in the world.
The U.S., China, and Russia.
Well, in this case of the emerging powers and the declining powers and so forth, we're only talking about 2.
The United States and China.
And the reason why, you may ask yourself why that is. Why we are not saying it's Russia, but rather it's China. Because China is a complete power. What do I mean by that? When we say complete power, we are referring to both aspects. economics,
Yep.
and military. Russia does not fit that profile. If it weren't for the nuclear weapons,
They would be bordering on irrelevant.
Yeah.
It's just the way it is.
you're absolutely correct, because Russia's economy can be compared to that of China. So,
Well, they don't have the population, and they got resources, but they're not using them because they don't have enough people.
exactly. And this is why, when it comes down to China, it matters. This is why in the United States, we are looking at China as a competitor. And sort of there is a reason for that. Because the concern here in the West as to, okay, where is China headed? And this recent trip of the speaker, it just added fuel to the fire. And the reason being, as you all know, is that the US maintained the one China policy.
Yes.
So what it means to me with this trip, maybe we are reversing that policy, which will not be good.
Even though the Biden administration continues to vocalize, no, it's just one China. Well, they're certainly not acting like that.
Yeah, well, for the United States, it always maintained that ambiguity.
Yeah.
Ambiguous policy. I am sure that behind closed doors, Ross, the United States told Taiwan, do not cross the red line by declaring independence. I am certain they would have mentioned that to Taiwanese behind closed doors.
Right, right.
But the support and all that, that's usually under the lenses of the global landscape you want to appear. And this is why there was that question as to the timing of this.
Isn't it interesting timing?
Yeah, I do find it very interesting, the timing. There are two tracks to that. One from the US side and one from China as to why China said what it said. From the US, because there are upcoming midterm election.
And it looks like the Democratic Party is going to take a real smackdown on this one. And so the timing is maybe we can rescue ourselves. Well, by causing this level of upheaval in the world, it seems unlikely that that'll be the effect.
Exactly. From China aspects is the upcoming presidential election in which Xi Jinping is going to be running for third term. So you look at both countries, they do have to sort of answer to domestic agenda.
Yeah.
But for us, we're going to provide that insight as to the big picture. And the big picture we're referring to here is how will China now proceed moving forward after this incident? Because they are angry. They were angry. They expressed that openly. And I can see why.
Well, when you talk about territorial integrity, there it is.
Yeah, because that idea of, to those who say, well, Taiwan is an independent state. No, it's not. Let's state the facts as they are. To be a sovereign nation, you have to have diplomatic representations.
Yep.
You have to have a representation at for example, if you want to be a member of the international community at the UN,
Yep.
United Nations Assembly. Taiwan has none of that. So it is for us also in the United States that we recognize the one China policy. Two separate systems, but under one. So which means Taiwan still have the self-ruling whatever, but it still falls under mainland China.
And from the Chinese perspective, we're looking at the backdrop being the century of humiliation, where the European nations came in with big guns and divided spheres of influence in China and humiliated China for a long time. Yeah. You think they forgot that? They're very proud people, and they're very proud of their 5,000 years of continuous history. And there's no short-term memory for the age of humiliation. And Taiwan and Hong Kong are both representative of the age of humiliation.
Indeed, Ras, and this is where the historical cycles comes in.
Yeah.
Understanding now you have the ascendancy of China to the global stage. You have the U.S. that its share of global power is declining, and you can just see when they're going to converge. And this is personally where my concern is.
Yeah.
Because throughout history, Ross, just for you to know, any emerging power end up colliding with the declining power at some point.
And typically, if we look at patterns from the past,
Yeah.
the declining power, as a last-ditch attempt, goes up for war. How insane is that?
Exactly, and this is where it was the idea. So many were asking, and I was one of those asking that question as to, okay, how will China react now? Because to me, it was like the idea, was China just bluffing? Or because if they were just bluffing, then they have put themselves in a bad corner.
They lost credibility in the world
Yeah.
stage if they were just bluffing.
Yeah.
But from what we can tell, they weren't bluffing.
They weren't, and I don't think so with this Taiwan issue, China will ever bluff. Because here's the thing. You can push and provoke a country, doesn't matter who, only so much to the point that that country is going to push back, very hard. And this could explain why China decided to conduct live fire exercises.
Well, they've been preparing for the pushback for some time. When we look at the very targeted military buildup, they didn't waste their money on a lot of things. They spent their defense budget on things that would really make a difference.
Yeah.
And of course, their cost of producing these things is much less than the United States. And their technology is fabulous.
Indeed. As a matter of fact, this live exercises that they are conducting, they're still conducting until I think the 6th. It's only the second time. The last time they did this was a couple of decades ago, and it was also following a visit by some high-ranking U.S. official.
Oh, let us learn from history.
History, you're right. That's the point. And as a matter of fact, this morning on my way to the studio, I checked one particular info that I wanted to make sure and to confirm something. And what I wanted to confirm is whether China launched a missile, and they did.
Yeah.
They launched, how many? 11. 11 missiles. It's not a laughing matter. We understand that because the seriousness of this. Because what this will mean for the global geopolitical landscape, the economic aspects, the financial aspects, all this is going to be impacted one way or another. And this was one of the questions many have asked is, will China act militarily?
Well, we're certainly seeing a lot of military activity with all the ships that are now surrounding Taiwan and these missiles being fired, and it looks like a real rehearsal for a war.
Yeah. And again, my personal opinion, I could be wrong, I'm just, we're all humans, we make mistakes, whatever. But I do not see the military dimension or aspect into this. And the reason being, Ross, is because China has other means at its disposal.
They certainly do. And a blockade would do the job.
Exactly. And for us in the US, can you just imagine how an American citizen is going to feel when he or she start going to Target, Walmart, whatever, and find the items they used to buy for $10, $20 now cost 80, 120, 150?
You've heard of my bicycle story.
Oh, yes.
I went to buy a new bicycle. The American version, which was a good bicycle, $475. Right beside it was a Chinese bicycle, $40.
Wow.
Which one do you think I bought? Try 40. I mean, the price differential is staggering. And wait till all the commodity prices are now at that level.
Yeah, and this is where I see the approach China will do. Because China strikes me as being very pragmatic. Because here's the thing, Ross. China will not want to risk destabilizing a global system that made it rich, that made it strong militarily, and led it to ascend to the global power. The helm of the global power, shall I say.
Right.
So China will be thinking twice about engaging that militarily. No.
From everything we can tell, the United States and China economically are locked at the hip in terms of trade going back and forth and how much each economy is dependent on the other.
Yeah.
So this crisis is not a good thing for anybody, anywhere in the world.
Indeed. There's only one advantage China has. Human capital.
Oh.
The size of the population is 4 times that of the United States, which means what? Per capita. So you can just see why financially China will be better off. It's because they don't carry the amount of debt. Speaking of debt, they've been liquidating U.S. debt.
By the billions of dollars. Yeah.
Indeed. So And this is why I am leaning, and my personal opinion, I'm leaning more towards the possibility that, not the possibility, but most likely China will pursue the economic venue, not the military one. The live exercises and the use of missiles and all that, that's a warning to Taiwan, because Taiwan understands what the red line is. And now, in that case, in my opinion, if ever, and this is a big if Taiwan declares independence, then China will have no other option but to go in militarily.
That seems unlikely. Even the leadership in Taiwan knows that 40 to 50% of the population would immediately rejoin mainland China if given the option. That's a substantial part of the population, 40 to 50%. There has to be some middle people there who say, well, maybe, maybe not. And then we have a whole bunch of people who say, okay, let's be independent. Well, they're not going to win.
Exactly. And this is, once again, brings us back to the dynamics of the global order, how it used to be in the past, and learning from history is where the key is. And why am I mentioning this, Ross? I'm mentioning this because when I looked at the trip of Pelosi to Asia, the two main other two countries, Japan and South Korea. Why is that? It's because she wants to elicit the support of those countries in case there is a military confrontation with China. As a matter of fact, this morning, Japan sort of expressed its displeasure with the Chinese conducting live military exercise. It brings me back throughout the pages of history as to how World War I evolved, how World War II evolved, when the alliances were forming, shall we say. And I do see some scenarios or some compatibility to a degree. And this is why most countries, besides South Korea and Japan, most of the other countries wants to stay neutral, and they don't want these provocations
at all.
Near their borders. They just,
if they're paying any attention to how World War I happened and the ridiculous alliances, you fire a bullet against this country and all these others come against you because they're in alliance, absurd. And we saw the tragedy that came out of that, and it was needless.
Yeah. Well, I am curious to see how events unfold. I'm keeping an eye open also because I'm in the process of writing a book about China, which it's time consuming, Ross.
How come I believe that?
With the amount of research that, well, you're looking at a 5,000 year history.
Don't I know it? All the courses in Chinese I took and all the Mandarin, so on. I really get it.
Yeah, but I'm excited about it because it's a learning process for me. It's a learning process for me. So I'm excited for that. But what I'm looking for moving forward is to see really what will happen, like what happened in the past when an emerging power tried to unseat a sitting power. We are looking at that conversion now. Place. And once again, I believe this recent trip of Pelosi to Taiwan, it's really precipitated.
It's accelerated.
Yeah.
It's accelerated the overlap.
Yeah. I just hope some cool head will prevail. And maybe, I'm thinking, will it be a possibility? Could be that the White House will issue an apology? Maybe, maybe not. But apology won't do it. The reason being, Ross, because the trust has been broken.
Right. And this is a series of trusts that have been broken. And the United States' reputation now is in the mud.
Yeah, because there was also that question, why now?
Can you trust the United States? No.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate. This is our country and we love it.
We love our country.
When we look at what other nations are saying, they say, we see you on the decline and we don't trust you also.
And this is where, Ross, I always find it very frustrating when some people do not like to hear the truth. Because they are thinking, we bash in America. That's our country. We love our country. We care for our country. That's why we talk the way we talk. You know, if we are to just say what everybody wants to hear, what's the point? It defeats the point. And I won't do it. I won't be sitting here because I do not compromise on something like that.
Well, we would be guilty of the same thing that the government seems to be guilty of. You couldn't trust us.
Yeah.
We're going to call it as we see it. And boy, do we do the research to come up with solid opinions.
Exactly. And this will lead us to conclude with our new mantra. You know, we always end our shows with a mantra that we used to say, but now we're going to say a new one. Our new mantra is prepare yourself for the changing global order. Till next time, guys. Bye-bye.